You're watching Maritime Viewpoints on Marine World Online. I'm your host, Ms. Lynn Bacani of the Marine World Operations. Joining us is Congressman Ron Salo, Representative Kabayan Party List and Chairman of the House Committee on Overseas Workers Affairs. Good morning, Congressman Salo, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Ms. Lynn. Good morning to all our kababayans, both here and abroad. Good morning to all of you.
So ang issue po natin ngayon ay Magna Carta of Filipino Seafarers. You're one of the primary authors. Siyempre, ikaw yung nag-spearhead yan sa especially sa lower house. What is the current status of the Magna Carta of Filipino Seafarers since it was ratified, approved by the Senate and lower house during the Bicameral Conference Committee on December 13 last year?
Yes, Ms. Lynn, we're very happy to inform everyone that the Magna Carta, as you've mentioned, has already been ratified by both houses of Congress, both the House of Representatives and the Senate. And the printout has already been sent by Senate to the House of Representatives. And this is being checked by a certain committee there. Specifically, I think it's the Bills and Index Division of the House of Representatives, making sure that all that is written in this particular printed copy is consistent with the one that was been approved by the House of Representatives and the Senate.
So, submitted na ba siya sa Office of the President sa Malacanang for signature ng ating Presidente?
Hindi pa, it's not yet. As of the moment, it's being currently checked, as I mentioned, and this will be submitted to the Speaker for his consideration for signing by the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Then it will be sent to the Senate. Then the Senate President will sign it together with the Secretary of the Senate before it will be transmitted to the Office of the President. So I suppose perhaps until next week, this particular proposed measure will already be submitted to the Office of the President.
So what happens next when the President, if he signs the measure into law? What is the timeline for its implementation?
Yes, the timeline, of course, it has to be published in a newspaper of general circulation. Then the various agencies tasked by this particular proposed measure to come up with or to craft the IRR will have to sit down and create that particular implementing rules and regulations. But we just need to take note that there are certain provisions this particular Magna Carta that are already self-executory. It means to say that it doesn't have to wait for an IR for it to be effective. We need an IR only in instances where there has to be a clear guidelines for its implementation.
But do you still see any reason for the President to veto or reject the proposed bill?
As of the moment, there's none. We note that there's a extensive support by the stakeholders, from the stakeholders for this particular proposed measure. We conducted several hearings, and so many hearings actually, both in the House and the Senate. And it has gone through an extensive deliberation. Of course, there are some sectors, I suppose, who may not be happy because, of course, any reform would entail certain actions on certain agencies or institutions. But it hasn't been to say that this will be a reason for it not to be passed into law or to be vetoed by the president.
But in those previous consultations, yung mga sessions sa Congress, well represented ba yung mga maritime schools because sila ngayon ang mukhang humahabol na na kumbaga wag kaagad maging law itong bill na to ng Magna Carta of Filipino Seafarers, not saying na they are against the whole Magna Carta bill, but certain provision like the chapter 18 na ini-include daw po yung education and training of our cadets dun sa bill.
Yes. First, all the stakeholders were invited in the hearings of the House of Representatives. All the stakeholders were invited to the hearings of the House of Representatives. Even after, a lot of them, particularly PAMI, sought an audience with this representation. I met them, not officially, quote unquote, but all their concerns were raised in several occasions. And of course, those particular concerns were considered by the committee as well as by this representation.
But we understand kasi sir, during the ano no, yung separate pa no, you have the House Bill 7325 and then the Senate Bill 2221 no, hindi pa na-reconcile. We still don't have the ano no, consolidated bill. Ang napansin na doon sa House Bill ninyo included yung part na education and training. But sa Senate Bill 2221 wala po yun eh. Nagbigay daw nagpasa daw ng position paper before ang PAMI. Meron din ba kayo doon sa Congress? At how did you reconcile no in this provision?
Of course, we take note of the concerns of PAMI. But remember, when it comes to maritime higher education, it is not just the school that is a stakeholder. Remember that. Let's all remember that. The primary stakeholders of universities or maritime higher education institutions, for that matter, are primarily the students themselves. Because we should remember that schools or universities or colleges exist not for themselves, but for the students and the parents themselves, who are also stakeholders in this particular discussion. That's the reason why I always mention to them when they talk to me, let's consider the entirety. It's not just you. Your stakeholders themselves, who are primarily considered have an interest in the maritime education as well as the whole maritime industry. Because these are maritime higher education, quote unquote. What does this mean? They cater to the maritime industry. So what we have to consider is the entirety. They cater to a certain sector, portion of that whole spectrum, what we call maritime industry. So they're not just the stakeholder there. Yes, they may have chosen not to speak or not to join or not to attend the committee, but this doesn't mean to say that the concern of that particular sector is not heard. It simply means to say that they themselves may not have been able to voice out specifically in the committee. But as you mentioned, they also sent their papers, and we also consider the concerns of the teachers and the students, not the specific teachers, but the students and the parents. Because it has come to our attention that lo and behold, so many students of these maritime higher education institutions thought that they're already graduating. But lo and behold, these particular higher education institutions are not compliant. Based on the data given to us by CHED, only 36% are able to finish or get the degree from these maritime higher education institutions. That's in general. But there are higher education institutions which are 100%. So if they're 100% and the average is only 36%, it means to say that most of these are actually lesser in number. So ibig sabihin po nito, Ms. Lynn, kapag nag-enroll po na 100 na estudyante, ang maximum nag-graduate po dyan is 36. For what reason? Hindi dahil dun sa estudyante wala po siyang kakayanan, wala po siyang competence, wala siyang pambayad. Ang problema, yung eskwelahan walang kakayahan na kumpletohin yung kurso na gusto niyang i-offer. Di ba? Dahil pagdating doon sa mandatory requirement for shipboarding, hindi po sila nakapagbibigay. Ayan, ulitin po natin, hindi po ito bago. Ang ginagawa lang po natin, nandito na po yung requirement po na yan, yung education institution. Kaya lang, hindi po nila sinusunod. So ano yung reason bakit sila nagagalit? Bakit sila sinasabi nila na pumasok po ito? When in fact, it has always been an existing requirement of maritime higher education institution. Na bago po sila, yung mga estudyante po nila, kailangan mayroong pong mandatory na shipboard training. Wala po tayong binago po roon. Isinulat lang po natin dito. At sinasabi po natin, dapat para masigurado mo yan na maibigay mo yan, may certain capacity ka lang na kukunin to make sure that you'll be able to deliver that particular promise to the student. Tandaan po natin, ang isang eskwelahan, kapag tumanggap po siya ng estudyante, that's a contract with the student, with the parents. Ang kontrata mo bilang isang institusyon, siguraduhin mo na may bigay po yung degree sa kanya kapag natapos po niya yung pag-aaral po niya. For as long as he's compliant with the rules of the school, he's paying, if that's part of the scheme is to pay for that particular tuition fee, at nagbabayad naman po siya at pumapasa po siya, then you are supposed to deliver what you promised because that's a contract with the students. Pero kung hindi dahil doon sa estudyante kaya hindi siya natapos, kundi dahil po doon sa isang institusyon, yung eskwelahan, because it lacks the means, the mechanism to provide that particular degree, then there's a problem. That's the reason why ang sinasabi po natin dito, wala tayong bagong sinusulat dito. We're only institutionalizing what is already there. Ang tanong nga lang, bakit hindi nila sinusunod? Kasi kung sumusunod naman po sila, walang magiging issue. Ngayon, hindi po nila nasusunod yung requirement po ng CHED. Then ngayon, sinulat po natin sa batas. Bakit okay lang sa kanila na requirement ng CHED pero hindi okay sa kanila na maging requirement ng batas? It's a question na wala naman tayong binabago. At the same time, sinasabi po natin, Ms. Lynn, kailangan po nating i-comply kung ano po yung pinramis natin dun sa isang estudyante at dun sa kanyang magulang. Nag-enroll po siya dyan sa eskwelahan po na yan to make sure that he'll be able to get that degree. Pero kung hindi mo na-deliver yung degree po na yon, not because of the student, but because of the institution itself, then there's something. And we need to address that particular issue. Number two, of course, ayaw po nila. Pero sa totoo lang po, we'll be honest with you, Ms. Lynn, tayo pa po ang nag-reach out, gumawa po ng paraan para magkaroon po sila ng opportunity na maibigay po nila yung kanilang commitment sa mga estudyante na shipboard training. Tayo mismo ang kumausap sa domestic shipping industry. Nag-request po tayo ng commitment sa kanila para i-absorb yung mga estudyante po nila para maging kadete dito po sa mga shipping lines po domestically. Nag-promise po, nag-commit po, kaya nasa batas din po yan, na domestic ships at a certain tonnage are required to admit cadets. So, ano ibig sabihin po nito? Meron na po sila na pagbibigyan. Ang tanong na lang po dito, are they going to exercise that? Para naman hindi lang yung pangako doon sa mga estudyante na makakatapos ka rito, magiging seafarer ka, kundi realidad, may tangible na pamamaraan para maibigay mo yung training na kinakailangan po nila. Tayo pong nag-reach out. Pero imbis na ma-appreciate po nila ito at masabi po nila thank you dahil kayo na po rin po yung gumawa ng paraan para hindi kami mahirapan. Sila po yung re-request ngayon na huwag pirmahan, huwag tanggalin ito because this is unconstitutional, etc. etc. Ay mukhang medyo kailangan po talagang magkaroon ng self-assessment. Tingnan muna nila, ano ba talaga yung main purpose? Why do you offer this particular degree?
Could you mention, Congressman, kung anong grupo ng mga domestic ship owners ang nakausap nyo na nagsasabi na okay na sila, they can provide cadetship berths sa ating mga mga estudyante?
Philippine Coastwise Shipping Industry. So this is the biggest domestic shipping industry sa Pilipinas. So nagkaroon po tayo ng consultation and hearing sa Cebu mismo para marinig po natin yung kanilang concern. At the same time, that's where we're able to secure your commitment na susuportahan po nila yung mga kadete po natin. And later on, tumawag din po sila, continuing yung kanilang dialogue. So papansin po natin, yun pong allegation po nila na hindi po pinag-usapan po ito, hindi po diniscuss. Paano mangyayaring hindi diniscuss kung yung mismong shipping industry nag-commit? Nakapag-commit po, paano hindi na-discuss? So ibig sabihin, they just chose perhaps not to participate, not to join in the discussion.
But do these ship owners asking for kumbaga kapalit or incentives kung gagawin nila tong mga kung tatanggap sila ng mga kadete? mandatory or
Mandatory already because
uh
we already place it in the law, the specific percentage ng
mhm.
mga tatanggapin po nila.
Ano
So,
naman support na maibibigay sa kanila, sir? Kasi before, nagiging issue na rin yan. Ang dinadaing ng ating mga ship owners, especially sa domestic, ay hindi nila kaya yung gano'n na magbibigay sila ng cadet berths. Magpo-provide sila ng cadet berths for certain reasons. Like may mga cost din kasi yan eh.
of course, based dun sa discussion po natin at nakasulat na rin po dito sa Magna Carta, may mga babayaran po yung estudyante but only the reasonable things. Hindi po babayaran, of course, yung pagkain niya, etc. Covered po yon ng ship owner. Ang kailangan lang bayaran doon, yung kanilang susutin, di po ba mayroon po silang specific na suit pag sampa. The same time yung tinatawag po nila ng insurance because everyone na sasampa po dun sa barko needs to be insured. But at the same time, wala na po naman silang hiningi na iba pa po. At sinabi po natin, libre po ito. Wala pong babayaran yung estudyante. But at the same time, libre, hindi rin po nila babayaran yung estudyante, quote unquote. So it's really part ng training. So it's really a win-win. So kung papansin po natin, that's how they looked at it as well. It's win-win because they're able to provide training, but at the same time, they are able to have certain warm bodies, quote unquote. At the same time, ang tinitingnan po nila is to really develop also the domestic shipping industry because nakikita po nila ang kailangan po natin sa Pilipinas also are competent manpower. At nakikita po nila na kadalasan po sa mga seafarers po natin, ang tinatakbuhan kagad yung international. So, ang choice po palagi ng mga natapos po, of course, ng pag-aaral ng seafaring ay yung international shipping industry. Kasi nakikita rin po nila ito, so yung mga nasa domestic ngayon, they lack that particular training. So nakikita po ng mga ship owners that this is one way also of developing the domestic shipping industry as well as opening the domestic shipping industry to certain opportunities also. Para yung mga kadete rin po natin, yung mga seafarers natin, hindi na lang po nila nakikita na kapag nagkaroon ako ng competence, ang takbo ko kagad ay international shipping industry. Pwede rin kung i-consider yung domestic shipping. Kasi ang value naman po nito, although of course sa domestic shipping, mas mababa yung salary that's a given. Kaya lang, they're here in the Philippines, so they'll be able to see your families. Anytime that they want to go home, they'll be able to see their loved ones. Compared dun sa international shipping, mas malaki yung sweldo, pero kailangan mong manatili dun sa ships for the period ng kontrata on the average 10 months. So these are pros and cons. That's the reason why nakita po nung Philippine Coastwise Shipping Industry, the domestic shipping industry, na may opportunity also to develop our competency, our manpower to cater also to the domestic shipping.
Pero ang sinasabi rin nilang napakabigat daw na requirement, no? Itong pagkakaroon ng training ship. Could you explain that further, Kong, please?
Yes. Ulitin po natin, yung pagkakaroon po ng shipboard training, ever since that's a requirement. So yung pagkakaroon po na supposed to be ng training ship, it's a given. Kasi paano mo naman iti-train kung wala kang training ship? Okay. Number one, that's the first point. Number two, dito sa batas ngayon, hindi natin nililimitahan. Kaya or po yan eh, hindi and. So, pwede rin po sila magkaroon ng, sabi po ng iba po sa kanila, pwede naman po dapat consider yung mga simulators, yung mga new technologies, para considered as part ng training. So, be it, nilagay po natin, or magkaroon po sila ng tinatawag po natin na tie-ups with manning agencies or the ship owners. Or, sasabi po natin dito sa domestic, mga ship owners sa domestic. So, it's various ways, these are the various ways how they would be able to deliver their promise to the students. So, hindi po ito isa lang na mayroon kang training ship. Kaya lang, nangyayari po sa kanila, nagre-react po sila, sinasabi po nila, hindi namin kaya yan, hindi namin kaya yan. Kasi nakafocus sila as a reason to pounce on the measure doon sa training ship. Pero kung tinanggal po natin yung training ship, magre-react naman yung iba, sasabihin po nila, may training ship na kami. Ba't hindi nyo inilagay? Di ba? Ngayon, sinama po natin training ship or simulators or other similar technologies or magkaroon sila ng manning contract or arrangement agreement with manning agencies or ship owners in order for them to deliver that particular commitment to the students. Hindi ko alam kung bakit ang nakafocus lang po talaga sila dun sa training ship. So siguro ayaw lang talaga nila na exert ng effort para makapag-comply po sila dun sa requirement po ng batas.
But for those who have existing training ships, no, Kong Salo, actually umaaray din sila sa operational cost, no? Sinasabi nga nila, they are educators, no? Hindi naman sila ship managers or ano, kasi it takes a lot of ang daming gagawin diyan na syempre yung mga maintenance, yung ganyan. Tapos ang government pa hindi ganoon ka supportive, no, na doon sa mga meron ng training ships. They are paying a lot doon sa pagdadak lang din ng mga ships nila. So meron bang support na maaasahan din ang ating mga maritime schools na magpupush na magkaroon din sila ng sarili ng training ships at doon sa mga may existing na po?
In this particular regard, kaya ito pong ating measure nakalagak na po sa marina. Because at the end of the day, yung mga registration po na binabanggit po ninyo, under po yan ng marina. So, well, of course, yung sa docking fees, under po yan ng PPA. So, of course, ang kakailanganin po dyan, I suppose, ng marina would really be to talk to other agencies, particularly PPA, para ma-address po itong particular concern po nito. But at the same time, tatandaan po natin, I completely agree that they're educators and their main purpose is to educate people. But at the same time, ulitin din po natin, nobody's forcing them to be in this particular quote-unquote industry or sector or business. Diba? Ang nangyayari po kasi sa atin ngayon, ang palagi nating sisi sa gobyerno, when in fact, we enter into that particular quote-unquote field knowingly. Alam natin kung ano yung guidelines, ano yung rules of the game. Nandiyan na po yung mga rules of the game na yan, yung mga requirements po na yan. Sometimes, nag-apply po sila with a promise that we will do it at certain time. Pero pag nandyan na, ang argument na ngayon, ay, hindi namin kaya yan dapat si gobyerno magbibigay niyan. When in fact, for all intents and purposes, you never enter into that without knowing kung ano yung mga requirements in that particular field.
How do you see the impact of this particular provision on education and training on the country's maritime education and training?
Definitely, mag-improve po ito exponentially. Kasi, ang sinasabi po natin, your promise, you should be able to deliver. Kapag sinabi po natin na training, then you should be able to provide that particular training. So, at the same time, tatandaan po natin, yung findings din po ng EMSA sa atin, ang dami-daming mga estudyante, pero hindi natitrain. So, it's a comment or findings, observation from EMSA itself. So, ang concern po nila doon, kapag ang daming estudyante, kakonti yung training ship. Tapos, ibig sabihin, gumagraduate yung mga yan. So, ang concern po nila, ibig sabihin, yung mga estudyante ninyo, yung mga graduates ninyo, hindi talaga nakapag-training. So, yun yung isang logical na conclusion ng mga nag-assess. Pero in this particular case, pwede na nating sabihin sa kanila, no, talagang ma-assure namin na yung mga estudyante na mga gumraduate po rito, the graduates, are really given that both academic as well as theoretical as well as the training that they require in order to become effective seafarers.
Siguro kang we can clarify, no, in this particular provision we are talking of the maritime degrees, no, kasi hindi naman lahat mga nagiging official no, may iba't ibang departments ang so itong particular provision na to, those that para dun sa mga maritime degrees like BSMT and BS Mare, no, yung papunta sa mga pagiging official ng barko. Am I right?
Napakaganda nung sinabi mo, Miss Lynn. Actually, salamat for pointing that out. Kasi dito po sa pinag-uusapan po natin, kaya requirement po talaga yan because these are what you call the degree. Then this will become the tatawag po natin na officers. But of course, tatandaan po natin, hindi lahat naman po ng sumasampa ng barko or become officers. The officers is just a certain percentage, malit lang po yan, to the totality ng mga nasa barko. So, yung mga sumasampa ng barko na in some other countries, sabi nga po nila, it's not even a degree, it's just a training. Kaya, ang ginawa po natin dito, inaatasan din po natin yung TESDA to come up with non-degree courses. At the same time, itong mga maritime higher education institutions na ito yung dapat nilang ma-explore na possible, na pwede yung binabanggit mo, Miss Lynn. Kasi, yung kanilang, kung wala yung trainingship nila isa o malit yung capacity po nila, kaunti yung kailang kontrata, because that pertains to that particular degree. But they're not stopped from offering non-degree courses related to maritime. Sapagkat yung non-degree course na yon, that will cater doon sa mga non-officers. So at the end of the day, kahit marami pa rin po yan, ang kakailangan nilang po nila doon ay i-akma yung training na ibibigay po nila. This is the reason why isa sa mga rason na nilipat din po natin from CHED, nasa Marina na po ngayon yung the entirety. Kasi at the end of the day, yung training po nila, education, both practical and theoretical. So, pwede rin po sila mag-offer ngayon with Marina and TESDA ng non-degree courses. So, hindi lang po i-offer po nila yung degree courses na binabanggit mo po na kakailanganin ng extensive 4 years na pag-aaral.
Kakayanin kaya ng Marina yung mga load na masyado yatang marami ng responsibilities actually dito pa lang sa mga nagdaang ay sinasabi na kulang medyo hirap ang Marina tapos madadagdagan pa ng ganitong mga other with this provisions sa Magna Carta.
Well, I suppose yung Marina naman po natin is ready to address the entirety of the concerns. Kasi tatandaan po natin, ang ina-address po natin dito yung kabuuan. At ito naman yung kabuuan yung concern ng Marina. So hindi naman po ito something that is alien to them. Actually, they already have that particular expertise. Kasi yung technical naman, sila naman po nag-handle even under ng CHED. But of course, ang kakailangan nilang po nito is yung ginagawa na po ng CHED, ikakapacitate lang po yung Marina. So counting tweaking lang naman po yung ginagawa na po nila na existing. So I suppose hindi po ito ganun kabigat as what others may actually looked at it. But kung hihimayin po natin, it's just a little tweaking doon sa current na ginagawa na po ng Marina sa ngayon.
Kung balikan ko lang yung sa constitutionality, no? Kasi PAMI is actually opposing yung ito mismong provision because ito yung statement nila, no? The bill goes against Article 6 of Section 26, no? 1, and emphasize that every bill passed by Congress shall embrace only one subject which shall be expressed in the title thereof. Magna Carta of Filipino Seafarers, as the title entails, PAMI claims that cadets are not yet seafarers, so provisions relating to their education and training should be excluded from the bill. Your reaction, please.
I definitely beg to disagree. I'm a lawyer myself. I used to teach also law. And definitely, when we speak about the Magna Carta of Filipino Seafarers, it's the entirety of the spectrum. Entirety from being a cadet to full-time seafarer and while working as a seafarer. So it covers the entirety of it. So at the same time, papansin po natin dyan because it also caters doon sa mga cadets while they're on board ships. So in that particular regard, they're already considered seafarer. So mali po yung punto po nila na mga cadets are not seafarers because anyone who is boarding that ship for as long as hindi po siya passenger, is considered a seafarer. So yun po yung konsepto po noon. So I beg to disagree yung sinasabi po nila na yung education hindi po yung kasama. Kasi kasama po talaga yon. Doon sa concept ng seafarer, anyone who boards the ship in any other capacity other than a passenger, considered po yan na seafarer. So yung gumagawa po doon, kung yung kadete nandoon para tumutulong, then in that particular regard, he's a seafarer. But of course, limited po yung kanyang, kaya naka-specify din dito sa Magna Carta of Filipino Seafarers, ano yung rights niya, ano yung obligations niya, ano yung obligation din po ng ship owner sa kanya bilang isang kadete doon po sa isang ship na kinaroroonan po niya.
We talk about the impact sa industry, ano, and paano naman yung ating mga students and parents, no? Sinasabi nila na mukha pong maraming schools yatang magsasara kapag tuloy-tuloy na i-implement na ito. Kasi mabigat daw at karamihan dun sa mga estudyante ng maritime ay mga galing sa mahihirap din, tataas ang tuition fees, tapos yung mga schools, no, out of the more than 80 plus na maritime schools, no, 73 dyan ay member ng PAMI. No, at sila ngayon yung nangunguna dito na nag-oppose dito sa bill.
Ulitin po natin yung statistics po ngayon. 36% lang on the average. 64% hindi nakakagraduate. So ibig sabihin po nito, when 64% hindi nakakagraduate, kung imagine po natin yon, so ibig sabihin, more than 60% of all these schools supposed to be dapat na-close na. Because they're not able to deliver yung kanilang promise. Diba? So kung ako, isang estudyante po ako, may kakayahan naman po ako na magbayad. Yung mga magulang ko, ginagawa po nilang lahat para lang mapaaral po ako dun sa isang eskwelahan na yan. Pero lo and behold, on my 4th year, nagkaroon supposed to be kunwari ng graduation, pero hindi pa talaga graduate, wala pang degree, kasi hindi pa nakapag-shipboard training. At the end of the day, hindi ko nakuha yung degree ko. Alin ang mas mahirap po doon, Miss Lynn? Diba, naisipin na possibly may magsasarang estudyante, ay magsasarang school, o possibly, ang reality, hindi lang posibilidad. The chances are, kapag ako yung isang estudyante na nag-enroll sa isang eskwelahan na yan, the chances are 64% hindi ako gagraduate. Diba? Let's face it. Kaya nga sabi po natin alin ba dapat ang kaninong interest talagang dapat nating tinitingnan? Kaninong interest yung dapat na mamayani? Yung isang interest ba ng isang eskwelahan na manatili po siya doon sa kanyang poder para quote-unquote, makapag-deliver ng edukasyon? O yung karapatan at kapakanan po ng isang estudyante ng realidad kapag pasok po niya doon sa isang eskwelahan na yan, ang chance lang po niya na makagraduate is 36%. Medyo mabigat. Di po ba? Kaya nga ngayon sinasabi po natin, gagawa na ng paraan po yung gobyerno para tulungan po sila. Pero sila rin mismo ang umaayaw. Maring hindi pa nila siguro naintindihan po ng mas malawak, mas marami. Kasi ang tinitingnan natin ngayon, madalas yung punto de vista po nila. Baka kailangan po nating tingnan sa punto de vista ng mga estudyante at mga magulang na ang chance lang po ng anak po nila is 36% kahit na gumastos po sila ng malaki. So ngayon, maring mag times 2 yung babayaran. What is times 2 kung sigurado naman po na at the end of the day, gagraduate po yung anak po nila? Di ba? Gumastos ka nga ng kalahati, quote-unquote, sa ngayon. Ito lang yung binayaran mo. But mind you, malaki po yan. Ito yung binayaran mo pero at the end of the day, hindi ka na, ang chance mo lang na makagraduate is 36%. Diba? Kung doblehin yan pero ang chance mo na gumraduate is mas mataas, 70+%, alin yung pipiliin mo? Dito ang pipiliin mo yung mas mataas yung chance. Kasi at the end of the day, kapag naging seafarer, ganap na seafarer po yan, mas malaki naman po yung inaasahan po nilang kikitain. That's the reason why tatandaan po natin on the average, hindi naman po pang mahirap. Mali po yung mindset at paulit-ulit po nilang ini-stress, anak po ng mga fisherman ito, anak ng farmer, anak po ng no, tama po yun. Kasi at the end of the day, open naman po yan Wala naman pong pinipili yung maritime higher education institutions. At marami rin po dyan ay mga anak ng mga marino na rin, mga seafarers din, na may kakayanan na magbayad. At hindi naman po mura ang training po nila kasi at the end of the day, mataas yung chance kapag naging seafarer po sila, mataas din po yung chance na makakapagtrabaho po sila. At malaki rin po yung sweldo na tatanggapin po nila. Sabi nga po natin, the average minimum mga 100,000 a month. Saan po nila kikitain po yun sa Pilipinas? Kahit na gumastos po sila, yung mga nagbe-medicine po sa atin, magkano po yung gastos po nila for the entirety ng kailang pag-aaral? But are they going to earn that particular amount kapag naging doktor po sila? Or even lawyers. I'm a lawyer myself. Magkano po yung gastos kapag nag-aral? Pero hindi mo kikitain ng ganun yun. Pero dito sa seafarer, tatandaan po natin, mataas po yung chance po talaga nila na magiging seafarer po sila in international ships. Pero ang argument natin, pang mahirap ito. That is not true. So, at the end of the day, gusto nating dispel yung notion. Kasi ginagamit po nilang reason ngayon yung mga mahihirap para i-oppose itong bill po nito. Which is not true. Because at the end of the day, yung seafaring is not only for the poor. It's also for the rich. Pangkalahatan po yan. At the same time, tatandaan po natin, it's a question of investment. Kaya nga mataas dahil at the end of the day, kapag natapos po yan, mataas din yung chance na ma-employ at mataas din ang sweldo na kikitain po niya.
And actually, meron tayong mga international ship owners, no? Or even organizations supporting sponsorships or scholarships, giving scholarships sa ating mga kadete, no?
I completely agree with you, Ms. Lynn. So, nandiyan yung MAAP, for example, PMMI, and other schools na 100%, kaya sila po yung nakakapagbigay ng 100% training, shipboarding. Kasi meron po silang sponsors. At sino naman yung ini-sponsor? Siyempre, yung mga alam ni po nila na talagang compliant din.
So, kapag ganyan, kung siguro magiging open din para dun sa mga new maritime schools or
An opportunity also.
nakakayanin na yung requirement. O baka may partnership with ship owners. Tingin niyo kung.
Tama ka doon, Ms. Lynn. It's also an opportunity, completely. Kasi we're changing yung sinasabi po natin, yung mindset. Kasi syempre, yung mga nagiging tawag dito, punto de vista ng mga nandyan, dapat protektahan po sila. Pero ang tanong po natin dito, wala tayong kailangang protektahan dito. Ang kailangan po nating isulong yung interes ng pangkalahatan, interes ng industriya, interes ng mga estudyante. Ngayon, kung binabanggit po ninyo, there is a possibility also, may mga new entrants na mga schools who are willing to provide and are able to provide the necessary training required by our students. So be it. Mas maganda po yun. And we'll be able to attract more compliant MHEIs.
Mukhang survival of the fittest ang mangyayari dito sa
Not necessarily. Ang kailangan lang po dito, Miss Lynn, kasi sinasabi nga po natin, kailangan lang po nila mag-exert ng extra effort. Kasi gumawa na po tayo eh. So it's not really about survival of the fittest. It's an issue of how much do you care for your students. Hindi po pwede na yung you care for your students kapag panahon ng admission lang. 'Di ba? Ina-announce mo, makaka-graduate ka rito, we care for you, etc., etc. But then the day, at the latter part ng kanyang pag-aaral, pagdating ng training, wala kang gagawin na effort. Tayo na nga yung naghahanap ng opportunity para masigurado po nila na ma-deliver po nila yon, pero ayaw po nilang gawin. They don't want to exert any effort. So it's a question, di ba? Ang gagawin mo lang naman na dyan, magkakaroon ka ng kontrata doon sa mga ship owners. As a school that you're offering this particular degree, ang gagawin mo na lang ngayon ay makikipag-tie up ka, partner ka doon sa mga ship owners para magkaroon po yung estudyante mo ng cadetship. So, it's not survival of the fittest. It's a question of how much do you care for your students para masigurado na yung pangako mo sa kanila para maging seafarer sila ay magkakaroon ng katotohanan.
Pero kung para sa mga maapektuhang estudyante, no, sa pag inimplementa to, of course may mga transition period 'yan, ano? Kasi baka abutan na nasa first year or second year yung biglang nagka-problema yung school, hindi kinaya, close na lang kami or kaya ganito na lang, ibang iladerize na lang namin. So ano yung assurance na maibibigay ninyo na
Wala kaming assurance na binibigay, Ms. Lynn. Ang
I mean,
sinasabi
sa
natin
estudyante
dito,
or
yes, no, sa estudyante actually, it's an opportunity for them. Kasi pansinin po natin, at present nga kapag nag-enroll po sila, your chance of finishing or getting the degree is only 36%. See? So kung sakaling natamaan po yun, nagsarado po yun, you're saving every year, 64% of the students. Para hindi na sila mag-enroll, gumastos, umasa, and magpakahirap din at the end of the day, hindi naman po sila gagraduate. At least, di po ba, kung sakali, mapipili ng mga estudyante po ngayon. Kaya sinasabi rin po natin ito para yung mga estudyante po natin should be critical enough in assessing yung mga papasukan ko ba na eskwelahan more than what they promise, or will these schools be able to deliver what they're promising to me? Diba? Kasi kakailanganin po natin ngayon, masigurado na kung kaya ng estudyante, kaya niya yung rigors ng pag-aaral ng curriculum at kaya niyang bayaran, dapat matatapos po niya yung degree po na yun.
Kung balikan ko lang yung question ko rin kanina, no, given halimbawa lang, na-convince or medyo, kasi may mga position paper or letters na pinadala yung mga, yung mga nag-oppose dito regarding dito sa provision na to. And can the president return it to the Senate or lower house for review? No, or this particular provision be deleted and back to square one ba? What happens next?
Ang tatandaan po natin, the option for the president, once it's submitted, ang tawag po natin yung enrolled bill, only two options for the president, three options. One, to sign it into law. Second, to veto it. Or third, to let it lapse into law. So in both instances, magiging batas po yun. Yung isa, yun yung mabibito and babalik ulit to square one. Wala pong option po doon because this is not a budget bill. Yung budget bill na pwede kang mag-itemize and piliin, ibibito mo yung certain items lang. Dito, hindi ka pwedeng mag-veto ng certain sections. So it's all or none. So ang tanong po natin, ano yung compelling reason for the president to veto it? Are we saying that these particular schools were not compliant? That's the reason why ayaw po nila na sumunod dun sa i-institutionalize na requirement ng batas? Is more important the entirety of the whole maritime industry, including the seafarers themselves? That's a question. Para i-veto yung isang napakagandang batas po nito. All the stakeholders are all in agreement na kailangan po natin ito. And even themselves, kahit tanungin din po natin yung maritime industry, yung mga manning agencies themselves, and seafarers, okay po sa kanila na talagang ma-weed out yung mga non-compliant schools. So ang tanong po natin dito, would your interest be greater than the interest of the entire maritime industry?
You said lapse into law. Gaano katagal yun?
30 days.
30 days na from the day na submitted to the president or what?
Yes. You call that process ng constitution, the enrollment. From the time that is submitted to the president, the president has, from the time of receipt, the president has 30 days to sign or to veto it. Otherwise, it automatically lapses into law.
Okay. Tapos, from the chapter 18, actually meron pang isa, no? From the escrow, no? Naging band, kapalit lang daw nun. Meron pa ring mga medyo umaangal dyan, ano? And I understand meron kayong mga information campaigns sa mga seafarers. How do they react dito sa Magna Carta of Filipino Seafarers, especially on that provision na yung sa band?
Gusto po talaga nila yan. Honestly, no less than the biggest union ng mga seafarers, AMUSUC, supported that particular provision. So ang tanong ko, sino yung nag-disagree? And who are these particular groups? Diba? Na nagdi-disagree dun sa provision po na yan. Do they represent the seafarers? Are they seafarers themselves? Or do they represent seafarers? And if they represent seafarers, in what capacity? Are they representing the seafarers as a lawyer? So, tanungin natin, sino ba sila at ano yung nire-represent po nila at ano yung status po nila in representing this particular seafarers? Kasi yung union mismo ang nagsasabi na kailangan po natin ito. Pero there's a group who are saying, hindi natin po pwede yan. And most of the time, I'll be honest, because I'm a lawyer myself, these are law offices. So, medyo weird. In the guise of protecting the interests of the seafarers, pero actually, whose interests are they protecting?
So how did you reconcile, no? Kasi dun sa Senate bill noon, wala itong part na to yung provision na to. Pero nung nag-BICAM na kayo, aba, na-approve din, ano?
Nandun sa House version po yan.
Sa House version. I mean, sa
Yes.
Senate, they were opposing that before. Pero nung
They're
nag-BICAM
opposed
na
dun sa
kayo,
escrow.
oo.
They're opposed dun sa escrow, but they're amenable dun sa bond.
Mhm, mhm.
So, natanggal
Could
yung
you,
escrow part, naiwan po yung bond.
yes. Could you explain that further, Kong? Kasi ito yung chapter 9, ano? Dispute resolution. Oo. Magkano ba yung band? Kasi pag ganyan daw na itutuloy, bakit si seafarer daw ang magbabayad? Medyo mabigat daw yata yun for the seafarer.
Ganito. Siguro, this is coming again from, what do you call this one? Perhaps misunderstanding or sometimes blatant. They're not exactly reading it properly, quote and unquote. Klaro po yung provision po nito. So, let's not try to, yung mga iba, confuse the wordings, the word. Hindi nakasulat po dun sa provision. Klaro, ang sinasabi po natin dyan, there are two types of awards being given to, in case nagkaroon po ng kaso. Mayroon pong tinatawag po na mandatory, mayroon pong tinatawag po na discretionary. So, yung mandatory, ito po yung statutory rights. Mga nakasulat sa batas, nakasaad, or also doon sa mga uncontested. Halimbawa, sinabi po nung isang seafarer kapag nagkaroon ng kaso, ang number of days na hindi ko naipasok ay ganito. And uncontested yon. Tanggap po nung, at dapat ito yung bayad po sa kanya. Ito yung salary po niya, so uncontested. Pumapasok po yung konsepto ng ban. Lahat po ito, kapag may in-award, ang sinasabi po natin dito, specify dun sa award. Nandyan po yung tinatawag po natin statutory rights, ano po yung uncontested. But at the same time, isulat din po natin ano po yung contested, ano yung pinagtatalunan. Number two, ano pa yung mga damages, ang mga additional awards. Because damages, tatandaan po natin, Ms. Lynn, sa batas, these are discretionary awards. Hindi po ito black and white. Ito yung mga moral damages, exemplary damages, nominal damages, attorney's fees. Yan po yung discretion nung nagbibigay ng award. So sinasabi po natin, itong mga bagay na ito, lahat po ito, immediately executory yan kung nanalo si seafarer. Except that, dun sa the statutory rights or mga uncontested amount, ibigay mo na yan immediately na walang issue, wala tayong pag-uusapan. Pero dito sa contested amount, ito yung damages, ito yung mga attorney's fees, o kaya doon sa dapat grade, ang pinag-usapan, grading, grade 1 to 14 po yan eh. Ang sinabi yan, contested, grade 2 ang pinag-usapan. Ibinigay po sa kanya grade 1, pinakamataas. So, nagkakaroon ng contested amount po doon. So, yung portion po na yon, ang sinasabi po natin, para masigurado na kapag nagkaroon po ng na-reverse yung decision, hindi si seafarer yung magbabalik po nun. Hindi nakakailanganin kunin pa sa kanyang sariling bulsa. Meron ng bond. At the same time, it's a win-win kasi yung other party would have a basis, real assurance na maibabalik po sa kanya yung na-award doon sa seafarer na hindi tama. So, yun po yung main purpose po ng bond na yun. Maraming mga instances ngayon na pinababalik, reverse, pinababalik po ng higher court doon sa seafarer. May mga instances na wala po siyang maibalik kaya hinahatak yung kanyang bahay, hinahatak yung kanyang mga naipundar. Di ba? Doon sa mga sukutan ko tumulong po sa kanya noon, yung mga lawyers po niya, etc. kapag nagpabalik po ng amount po dyan, hindi naman po sila magbabalik. Si seafarer lang po yung magbabalik. Kasi what they deliver to him is a service. Ngayon, ang kawawa si seafarer kapag nagkaroon ng reversal ng decision. Kaya ina-address po natin ito para masigurado na hindi po siya kailangang magbenta po ng kanyang ari-arian later on. At the same time, para masigurado din sa other party na may pagkukuhanan ng pagbabalik. Alam mo po, malungkot dahil nakikilala po ang Pilipinas doon sa tinatawag po natin na ambulance chasing as capital. May nakausap ako one time, isang event po dyan sa Makati, ng mga ship owners and principals event. Nilapitan po ako ng isang Pilipino na ang principal po niya is representing Singaporean vessels. Malaki yung fleet po nila. I think magit 500 fleet po yon ships. Sabi niya, kung honesty ka, sabi niya, it pains me dahil I'm a Filipino. I would really want to employ my fellow Filipinos. Pero my instruction for me is not Filipinos. Why? Because the Philippine system, when it comes to these cases, is perceived to be unfair. It's not on equal footing. Wala nang chance yung ship owner kung sakaling nagkaroon po ng labanan, nagkaroon ng kasuhan, at na-award na sa kanya, wala nang opportunity para maibalik doon sa ship owner yung nawala sa kanya. So, yung mga insurance ngayon, tumataas yung premium kapag Pilipino po yung kinukuha. Kaya ang instruction daw sa kanya, huwag sa Pilipino kasi mataas yung babayaran, mataas yung gastos. Kaya sabi niya, kung gawan natin talaga ng paraan. Kasi pag nagawa natin ng paraan ito, definitely we would be given opportunity to hire Filipinos and give more employment opportunities to Filipinos. So, with this particular provision, kung makaka-attract po tayo ng additional 100,000 na mga bagong mga employment opportunities para sa mga seafarers po natin, paano no ito babalik ta rin paano natin masasabi na yung interest ng ilan na nagkaroon ng kaso na gusto po nila makuha ng buong buo in pales comparison to the interest of additional, let's say, 100,000 new employment opportunities for seafarers. Di ba? Between the two, kung babalansin po natin, alin ba dapat yung bigyan po natin ng higit na mas matimbang? Di ba? Kasi kung pag-uusapan po natin, alin nga ba ang higit na magsusulong ng kapakanan ng mga seafarers? Definitely, mas may susulong natin yung kapakanan ng mga seafarers with this particular provision. Kasi ang aim po natin is to create more opportunities para sa mga seafarers po natin.
Just curious, no, Kong, how long have you been in Congress? Mukhang nung 2023, doon ko lang kayo na sa maritime, no, na nagpo-focus at mukhang tuloy-tuloy na yata ito na magiging lagi kang aktibo sa industry ng maritime.
Third term ko na po ito, Ms. Lynn. And of course, I handled several committees already. Nung second term, I handled the Committee on Public Information. I was also head ng House contingent on HSRET. Then, I've also been very active in so many other committees in the House of Representatives. Then ngayon, itong Committee on Overseas Workers Affairs. Hawak po natin, which includes seafarers.
So kung for your final words, no, siguro, tawag dito, ano pa yung masasabi niyo sa maritime industry, especially dito sa manning sector natin, ano? And how important is this Magna Carta of Filipino Seafarers to be enacted into law?
Ms. Lynn, we considered our maritime sector, the maritime industry, as one of the very important industries in the country now. Noting that there are several millions of seafarers. At the same time, we understand itong manning agencies which play very vital role also ensuring na magkakaroon po ng appropriate and employment opportunities sa mga seafarers po natin. And we view this in its totality. Kasi ang aim po talaga natin ay higit pa na palawigin itong industreng ito. Kaya nagpapasalamat tayo, nagkakaroon tayo ng opportunity to handhold this particular measure, legislative measure, the Magna Carta of Filipino Seafarers. Tandaan po natin, as the name implies, at the core of it are the Filipino seafarers. Kapag binasa po natin yan from start to finish, ang focus po niyan is the Filipino seafarers. How to make sure that your rights will be protected, promoted. How to make sure that we create more competent Filipino seafarers. That's the reason why it includes also yung kanilang education, the training component. How to make sure that our seafarers are world-class. So, of course, ang objective po talaga natin dito is to make sure that the Filipino seafarers are very competitive in the international market. Kasi at the end of the day, kailangan po natin our ship owners or the principals para magkaroon po ng tuloy-tuloy na employment opportunities yung mga seafarers po natin. But at the same time, we also wish to develop the local maritime industry. And when we develop the local or the domestic maritime industry, ang kailangan din po dyan at the core of it are competent seafarers. That's the reason why may participation din po, may collaboration din po tayo with the domestic shipping industry. Because we want to create a more robust shipping industry locally, domestically, para mas magkakaroon po ng opportunities yung mga seafarers po natin. Whether they would choose to be in the domestic, to work in the domestic or the local, or they wish to join international shipping industries or shipping agencies, then so be it. Ang mahalaga dito, yung karapatan po nila, mapoprotektahan, yung kapakanan po nila, higit na maitataguyod. And maraming salamat, and we look forward for the immediate passage or the signing or the transmittal of this particular legislative measure so of the President. And we're all excited dun sa i-create po nito na more robust maritime industry in the Philippines. Thank you very much, Ms. Lynn.
Maraming salamat, Congressman. Congressman Ron Salo, Representative, Kabayan Party List, and Chairman of the House Committee on Overseas Workers Affairs. Thank you for watching Maritime Viewpoints on Marine World Online. For more meaningful maritime news and views, subscribe to Marine World Online. I'm Lynn Bacani, your working publisher. God bless Maritime Philippines.
My face recognize